innovation is always risky, but if you've got a great team that really understands your systems, you've got great tools that ensure that you know what's not working in your system and you can quickly identify problems and fix them, then you can take calculated risks and you can drive innovation really fast.
Welcome to the Ecommerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives, a podcast by Noibu, where we explore the elite strategies and cutting-edge insights with our expert guests. Get ready to propel your e-commerce business to the next level.
Welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Toolbox Experts Perspective. Joining us today, we have Leo Griffin, all the way out in Colorado. So Leo and I have known each other for a couple of years. Leo's the former VP and global head of consumer technology at Hanesbrands. Prior to that, he was at VF Corp. He has a ton of experience from entrepreneur to VC to leading digital. So wanted to welcome you to the show, Leo.
Terrific to be here, Kailin. Thank you so much.
So you just left Hanesbrands not too long ago. Can you share your career journey so far? What are some of your key experiences and how it's approached how you look at leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have had, I think, a pretty broad career. I'd say there have been 4 phases of it. I started my career as a strategy consultant, and I spent 12 years doing that. I then moved over into investing, and I worked both in venture capital and in private equity, where I was, investing in companies, sitting on boards, helping guide their overall strategy. And then I became an entrepreneur. I ran a couple of early and growth stage companies, and then moved into kind of Fortune 500 enterprise land. And so I was a VP in the technology group at VF Corp, which owns the North Face and Vans and other big brands. And then a VP also focused on consumer technology at Hanesbrands, which owns Maidenform, Barley, Hanes, of course, and up until about a month ago, Champion.
Awesome. Thanks, Leo. Maybe talk to us a bit about how your diverse background in all these different fields has influenced how you looked at digital strategy at a global scale in your most recent role.
Yeah. So I think that the things I would say that have really helped me in thinking about digital transformation is, first of all, really being able to take a strategic approach to understand the business's strategy, to be part of developing the enterprise strategy, to be able to understand the financial impact. Again, having had an investor perspective, I think it really helps to be able to understand kind of what this means in terms of shareholder value creation and so on. And then as an entrepreneur, obviously you have to get things done. You have to get things done quickly, economically, and so I think all of those things helped me to be a what I think is a pretty effective leader of technology in enterprises.
Leo, talk to us a bit about how you balance the need for rapid innovation with also meeting the immediate demands of the different brands. So obviously, when you're at Hanes, you have Hanes Global. They own a ton of different brands. Every brand has someone that wants something a little different. How did you balance kind of meeting those immediate needs with the long-term strategy?
Important things from an operational excellence point of view is building and having a response team that you have great confidence in. So e-commerce is and direct to consumer in general, it's a 24 by 365 day job, right? The websites are always up, they're always doing business. And so you need to have a team that is capable of jumping out of bed at 2 a.m. to fix things when they go wrong. And I think for us, having that team and then building the systems around it so that we had alerts when there were problems, that some monitoring systems that can help you with those alerts, and then connecting those to communication systems like Slack, and then just simple things like scheduling and kind of call routing, right? So that you're not waking everybody up, just the people who are kind of on are on watch on availability at that particular time. I think that is that's a big part of it. And then once you have that, then the next thing I think is just kind of situational awareness about what is going on in terms of technology innovation. And that requires both, I think, spending a significant amount of your time out in the community, talking to vendors. There is some value, I think, in going to trade shows and so on. But obviously following press, following competitors and so on, to understand kind of what is going on in terms of that, what is the state of innovation. And so I think if you've got a strong response team, then you can be confident about making you're taking some risk with innovation, because you know that if something breaks, and things do break, because of an innovation, then you've got a team that can help you there. And then the final piece of that, I think, is really a balance between making sure that you build with quality and you're testing for quality. So, QA and user acceptance and so on, and speed. And, one of the things that I've seen work successfully is an evolution from kind of user testing to user acceptance, so that the testing really gets done in the development. And then, user acceptance is really just about making sure that agreeing that those were the right tests and that they were passed.
Pivoting to a different conversation, can you explain what a global value stream team is and how they function within kind of multi-brand companies? That's something that I'm seeing more and more a lot. We work with a lot of multi-brand companies, and we used to see a lot more 5 years ago, a lot more regional decisions. So for example, you have the brands, there's different regions. They would kind of run their own playbook. Now we're seeing things centralized a lot more. Yeah. Could you maybe talk to us a bit about what a global value stream team is and how do they actually function in a large brand?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I led a couple of value streams most recently at Hanesbrands. It's a concept that originated in lean manufacturing as a way of mapping how value is created and delivered to customers. But it's been adopted by the agile community as a way to scale from one team to many. So teams essentially collaborate to continuously improve value delivery for customers, consumers. So at one of the companies that I worked at, we set up teams within the value stream around different stages in an e-commerce journey. So, you think about the different phases that a consumer goes through in considering, purchasing, and ultimately receiving a product. So, you need to get them to want it, right? So there's a want it team, potentially a find it team, so that they can actually, once you've created brand desire, they can then find the product. A buy it team, which orchestrated kind of the journey through to everything they do once they're on the site through to pressing the buy button, and then a get it team, which orchestrated payment, fulfillment, returns, customer service, and so on. And so those teams all work together with other teams in order to deliver consistent, constant improvements in the consumer journey. And so identifying where there's friction and where there's opportunities to improve it, and that's how a value stream works. You do that across multi-brand companies. There's different ways of approaching it. But in general, I think that if there's similarity between the brands, then you want to try and be working off one code base, and then you kind of can have, feature toggles and so on, which enable you to differentiate the sites and the experience journey that you are providing to consumers of different brands.
And a lot of this ties back to agile methodologies, and I'm curious to learn about your experience. And in some cases, I've heard from leaders like yourself that implementing agile methodologies could be really hard across very large businesses. Have you successfully ever scaled agile practices before? Maybe some tips and tricks around that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen agile rolled out, at several large enterprises. And there are some challenges with it. I would say that it is hard to have agile across every portion of technology work, because there are some systems and some vendors that still prefer to work in a waterfall fashion, right? And so to me, I think one of the first things that you have to do when scaling agile is to accept that maybe it's not going to cover 100% of the enterprise, and therefore you need to have some flexibility, and you need to figure out ways in which, agile can work together with waterfall. I would say, scaling it globally is challenging, and having global teams is challenging. Modern tools have made collaboration much, much easier. Even when everyone is remote or they're in different time zones. Obviously, COVID accelerated that a lot, but we still found that time zones are pretty critical for teams. If you have, agile teams need to be able to get together every day and have stand-ups, right? And so if you're working across time zones in a way where it's just the work days don't actually overlap at all, that is really, really difficult to achieve, and probably not going to work. You may be able to make it work for short periods of time, but ultimately people burn out of it.
That's interesting. And especially as consumer expectations change, obviously a lot happened post-COVID. We're still trying to clean up and understand what consumer expectations are. Could you maybe talk to us a bit about improvements in personalization efforts and some of the kind of initiatives you did and how they tie back to agile and creation of value streams?
Yeah, sure. So, I think personalization is obviously one of the major initiatives in e-commerce over the past, 5 years, call it. There are many, many different companies that are taking different approaches to personalization. There's a ton of, really interesting and valuable point solutions out there that enable, whether it's personalization of search or of recommendations or of, in apparel outfitting, all kinds of, or of content, right? There's many, many different ways of personalizing e-commerce experiences. I think one of the challenges that a lot of companies have been dealing with is that when you pursue those point solutions, you come to a place where your data is siloed and spread across a lot of different databases. That makes it very difficult to have one system inform another. And it's also very difficult to use that data then in a consistent manner to create segments and to drive personalization of marketing, of email outreach, and so on. And so, the trend has very much been towards trying to centralize that data using customer data platforms. And I think that has been accelerated by the cookie apocalypse, right? Which, has been, I suppose, an apocalypse that we've all been waiting for and has been kind of delayed, and now perhaps called off. But I think that the trend has been very much for cookies to go away, for consumers to block cookies, for one to require permission to use that data, and so on. And so using your own systems to gather, both client side and server side consumer data, bringing that in from your marketing platforms, your retail platforms, and bringing that all together into a CDP where you can then do identity resolution, segmentation, and decisioning, and then use that to drive and deliver value and customize your marketing. That's very much the trend. I think that there are companies are on very different stages of really making that work. There's still companies out there that haven't adopted CDPs. There's some that have, but are continuing to work to really create the value and discover the value, and some which I think are clearly having a lot of success. But they are complicated systems that require dedicated resource and understanding to make work. And I think when you take them on, you have to think about building a team around them, or being willing to spend a lot of money on systems integrators to do everything for you.
I know you and I chatted a lot about this, and I actually went on the website to kind of validate this, but Hanesbrands recently launched 3 of the fastest websites on the internet. Could you talk to us a bit about that technical journey? Why did you invest in speed? How did you guys actually do this? Yeah, I'm really curious. And if anyone wants to test them who's listening, they are really fast. It was really cool to see that.
Yeah, so we launched maidenform.com in the fourth quarter of last year, 2023. We launched then subsequently Champion.com and Hanes.com on a platform called Adobe Edge Delivery Services. Maidenform was the first e-commerce, consumer e-commerce website on this platform, and we worked very closely with Adobe to essentially enable that platform for e-commerce. So Edge Delivery was originally developed by Adobe for content sites, and it uses multiple approaches, some common and some newer, to deliver extremely performant websites. So, our sites have Lighthouse scores, typically in the high 90s. Generally, when I go and check them, the Lighthouse score is around 99. It fluctuates a little bit from day to day. But to put that in context, that's on a 1 to 100 scale of speed. That is, it's extremely fast, and it's essentially unprecedented for e-commerce sites because there's so much going on in e-commerce sites. There's so many different sources of information and complexity that you're bringing onto each individual page that they tend to be pretty slow. And generally you'll find good e-commerce sites are performing in the 30s or 40s. I think Amazon is maybe in the 60s, right? But Amazon has obviously just an incredible global infrastructure and a vast budget, right? But still dramatically slower than some of that we were able to build. So the technical journey, I would say, involved adapting that framework and systems that Adobe had built for content sites for e-commerce sites. And so setting up Adobe Commerce essentially as a back-end platform with a headless front end using Edge Delivery, delivering many different kinds of content and integrations through that front end. And then, there's some complexity on passing information back and forth between the front end and the cart, so that all of that account information about who you are, obviously what's in your cart and your preferences and so on, getting that from the front end to the back end. Those are essentially the technical steps. But, I think I was extremely proud of the work that we did there and of the team that I got to work with to deliver it. And we have Hanesbrands has 3 of the fastest e-commerce sites in the world, which obviously has real business impact. It's not just something to boast about.
Speed is something we're spending a lot of time on right now. We just released our Core Web Vitals product not that long ago. And it's something that I remember one of the first books I read about commerce, I forget if it's Amazon or Target or somebody ran or might have been Walmart. It was for every 10 milliseconds, it was $1 million, or I don't know. There was that benchmark stat. Who knows if that's true or not, but I definitely think there's a loose correlation. Talk to us a bit about how you ensure these speed enhancements actually translate to tangible business results. Like, where'd you see some of this stuff? Was it the reduction of bounce rates? Like, why does speed matter outside of the obvious answers?
I would say broadly, speed matters for 2 reasons. The first is consumer experience, right? We've all had that experience of kind of the spinning wheel on a site or it not pulling up and we just jump away. And in general, when you've got highly performant sites where you're giving consumers, with the information that they want immediately, they spend longer on the site, they go to more pages, and they're therefore more likely ultimately to make it through to the end of the journey and convert, and they're more likely to see more products and spend more time with you. So that is, it's very obvious the way in which that drives business performance. The slightly less obvious impact is that Google and other search engines are using site speed as a significant input to their search algorithms and their search marketing algorithms, right? So the dollars that you're spending on search marketing are actually more effective when you are marketing a fast site than a slow site. And the dollars that you're spending on SEO are dramatically more effective when you are optimizing for a fast site versus a slow site, because Google is wanting to send people to the sites that it thinks will deliver their searchers, their consumers, the best experiences. So if you're operating a slow site, Google looks at that and says, I don't really want to send consumers there because they're going to bounce off. So we saw dramatic, I'd see dramatic traffic growth of organic traffic, 200% organic traffic growth as a result of really increasing the speed. You also see significantly lower bounce rates and improvements in conversion. So all of those things add up to make investing in speed, if it's differentiated speed, really it can have a great ROI.
Love it. As we look to wrap up, Leo, any parting words for folks in e-com? Any kind of top of mind trends? As we look to part off.
Well, I would say that e-commerce systems are increasingly complex. They're systems of systems. It's important to have really great monitoring tools that help you bring all of that together. Obviously, Noibu is a tool that I've worked with in the past, and you've delivered tremendous value and helps to make sure that all of those integrations are working. I would say as e-commerce evolves, e-commerce and technology leaders need to have strategy skills so they can be in the discussion. They need to be on top of evolving consumer and business needs and on top of evolving technical capabilities. I think it's really important to have product owners who are out there understanding the sort of state of the art and helping you to remain on top of what that state of the art is. And then, building a really strong internal team that you can rely on and that enables you to take calculated risks, because innovation is always risky. But if you've got a great team that really understands your systems, you've got great tools that ensure that you know what's not working in your system and you can quickly identify problems and fix them, then you can take calculated risks and you can drive innovation really fast.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Leo. Really appreciate your insight. Looking forward to releasing this one, and we're all looking forward to see where you land next. Thanks so much for your time, Leo.
My pleasure. Thanks, Kailin.
Cheers.
The Ecommerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives is brought to you by Noibu. To find out more about Noibu and how we can help you debug your e-commerce site and rocket your revenue, visit www.noibu.com. That's Noibu.com. And then make sure to search for the Ecommerce Toolbox Expert Perspectives on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and click subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Noibu, thanks for listening.